Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Jellyfish Joining a Fan Channel. Oh my God, I'm only with bloody world-class writer and producer Paul Steele. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for doing this because it's kind of an odd thing. Yeah, I don't think you have anything to promote, so you're just doing this because I
No.
asked, which is lovely.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that. Um, and it's a morning interview as well, so I don't have the ring light on. Um,
it's
I've,
nice, isn't it?
it's lovely. I think it might change the style of the interview. We won't be going so deep and dark and stuff like that because when I
Maybe.
interview, yeah, we'll see. When I interview people, it's usually they're in LA and it's usually 3 in the morning and it's freezing bloody cold, and I'm like,
Oh yeah, that's tricky, isn't it?
I'm excited about doing it because the fact that anyone wants to do this is nice. So I can't be like, fuck off, Jason Faulkner. I don't want you on this. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not in that position to be turning down actual members of Jellyfish. But so so how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, I'm glad we managed to get this going. I know we've had multiple attempts, and it was all due to my disorganized life. But I'm really glad we can do this now.
Not at all. I
Yeah, but I'm
mean,
good. How are you?
all right. I'm all right. If I start whinging about the government, it probably might it
We
might
don't need to
put
talk about the government.
it might put people off. Have you ever written a strictly political song?
Not really. I mean, yeah, they if I go anywhere near it, it's just from a kind of warped observer's perspective, from somewhat, from an apathetic kind of detached perspective, really, because it's just, it's too ugly for me, and I like living in a fantasy world that I get to create. That's much more appealing to me.
Absolutely,
But
and as well,
yeah,
I think it really would potentially just put people off. I think the re-listen value to like a political song um, might
yeah,
might not be there because I mean you would very much have to balance it with catchy tune. Otherwise,
yeah.
there's no appealing side to it whatsoever. I don't think because you're already
No,
limiting your
totally.
audience by slagging off something that like half of your audience may not like, but unless you're
Yeah.
like Billy Bragg or something, right?
Yeah, well, I suppose it dates it as well a lot of the time. So it's associated with a moment. Although I suppose, some of that transcends it, but um, it's I view music as a much more escapist thing for me. It's like actually it's a good opportunity to do all the things that you can't do. I mean, there's some great political songs out there, or protest songs and stuff like that, obviously, but it's just too weird at the moment, you know. But as far as I'll go, it's just a reference to how orange Trump is or something like that. But it's always it's you know I, if I do kind of touch on anything like that, it's with a playful approach, I think.
As,
But
as as I think it should be. I mean, it's also the kind of the thick of it kind of thing where things are you can't even describe them more crazily than they actually are now. So that, like something like the thick of it wouldn't work anymore, and a strictly political songwriter, I don't think would really, I don't know, go down so well
yeah,
unless you take the piss. When
which
and
is
I think there has to be some comedy in there to counteract the sheer
yeah,
misery.
exactly. I mean, it's so miserable, and then yeah, you're right. Like it's a shame because I love the thick of it. It'd be great if that could come back, but yeah, it's too absurd. They were saying that about Black Mirror as well. That the world's just it's becoming more absurd than the art can sort of project. So, so yeah. So I stay aware of it, but I try not to let it creep into the thing I like doing, which makes
Hmm.
sense.
So before you wrote April and I,
Yeah.
what kind of what kind of stuff were you writing? Did you feel it was like building up to being able to create something so conceptual, sort
Yeah.
of, you know?
so I was in like, I was in school bands and stuff like that, and we started writing music, and we were sort of, I grew up on a diet of like alternative rock and 90s stuff really, and so everything was kind of on the back of that. April and I is interesting because actually, I know it was the first thing I released, but it was kind of, it came about as a reaction to, essentially all the songs I did for Moonrock were kind of songs that they were my first foray into the kind of the sound that I was trying to explore. April and I was a weird one because it was like I was starting to get interest from labels, and I was starting to kind of already feel the slightly oppressive nature of a major label. And April and I was a bit like me going, okay, but let me do something mad because I might not have a chance to do it again, kind of thing. That's
Uh,
kind of where my head was at. So it kind of weirdly came sort of towards the end of the Moonrock writing cycle, but then released it first as a bit, as a kind of a soft release to a gateway to maybe Moonrock. So uh yeah, before that I was very much into like my Radiohead kind of stuff, guitar bands like Supergrass and Gomez and things like that. So um yeah, I don't know where all that came from, to be honest. I think,
well,
I went, sorry, go
no,
ahead.
no, no. Go on. Sorry, I don't mean to
I was just
interrupt.
saying, thinking, I think I'm trying to think where my pivot was, but there was a point where I kind of was a guitar wielding, I wanted to be Johnny Greenwood basically. And then I don't know, I think I discovered piano and I discovered chords and Beach Boys and all those kind of bands. And I was like, oh, I think I can do that. But it hadn't occurred to me before then because it was desperately uncool.
Yeah, tell me about it. Like, were you taking lessons at school, or were there any other kids at school who shared your tastes and wanted to start a band? Because I had none of that, and to the point where music was pushed so little that four students picked it for GCSE, including me, and that was not enough to justify the funding. So then it got scrapped at
Oh,
GCSE, and I never really forgive them about that.
yeah, that's
You know,
bad. That's bad.
yeah.
No, we did. I did like a music thing at school, and I had a kind of a small group of mates who, and I remember seeing, this is a big moment for me. But they played like a school concert, and there's sort of a band made up of all the kids from the year above, and they did like Paranoid Android and all these like complicated Radiohead songs. And I thought that is amazing. How are they doing that? Um, that felt unachievable. So I kind of got into that little group. So I had lots of people who shared my love of kind of guitar music at the time. Um, but you're right, I couldn't find anyone who'd want to sing harmonies with me. I couldn't find anyone who basically played piano. It was so guitar and alternative heavy that uh, yeah, it was really tough to find someone to go along for the more like harmonic journey with me, because it just wasn't cool at the time. Um, and yeah, maybe I didn't look hard enough, but yeah, I did find that difficult.
No, I think you probably looked the right amount of hard enough. I just don't think there were kids
Yeah,
that were massively, like I said, certainly wasn't at my school. I mean, I was kind of finding myself influenced by, and I didn't realize that I was being influenced by this kind of stuff, but by TV jingles and by
yeah,
cartoon themes and stuff like that, because I
mm,
had no sense of chart music or pop music or anything like that, and
yeah,
it took a little while. I mean, I keep saying just to get the jellyfish quarter of conversation in there.
yeah,
Yeah, for me, it was Queen for their breadth of work was
mm,
like what immediately appealed to me, and Queen were kind of slightly pushed on me by my parents,
yeah,
along with sort of like 50s rock and roll and stuff like that, because that was just the period that they grew up in, and they loved Little Richard and stuff like that. But in terms of, I began writing songs, but I didn't really think about arrangements and stuff because Queen, for how great their songs are, they don't have different instruments. It's guitar, bass, drum. Yes, there are
mm,
keyboards, but it didn't really occur to me what they were trying to mimic with the keyboards, like string arrangements. Nothing really clicked in logically until Jellyfish. There was like pre-Jellyfish life and then Jellyfish
yeah,
life sort of thing,
yeah,
and then that's when I started looking at production and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So with piano, with it, it's not like you would immediately have a piano in the house. A keyboard is more likely that I'm guessing
Mhm.
you may have had first. So then, did you start discovering the different sounds and things that appeal to you, like being able to create a glockenspiel or like a string arrangement, stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, we did actually have like a kind of really ropey out of tune upright thing. So I had lessons on piano when I was much younger, but um, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy scales. I didn't. I maybe picked up some technique, but to be honest, I lost that. I still don't have very good technique. But it was only yeah, it was only kind of actually after I'd learned guitar, which was like, you want to be a guitar hero, you want to be flash. But my finger, I couldn't do. I'm not a technically gifted guitarist either. But um, I kind of through lots of the bands I was listening to who maybe started doing sort of the odd piano song, I kind of got interested in that, and then yeah, I did get a keyboard, and yeah, MIDI, that was the big one when I discovered. I think I was at college, and one of my tutors showed me that you could control, any sound. They were hammy sounds at the time, but you can control any sound with a keyboard. That was just like amazing. So I can do strings, I can do all that kind of stuff. I didn't, told me I could do drum, I could sort of program drums in and stuff like that. Um, so that was definitely a big one in like, oh, I can do some big arrangements if I want to. Um, and I think that was probably quite a pivotal moment, and that's probably why I lent on keyboards a bit more. And also just like writing sort of dense harmony stuff is a lot easier on keyboards because guitar's all based on shapes and muscle memory, and you can have happy accents on it, but the keyboard helped me visualize harmony in a way and the movement of it. So that was that I'm really glad I kind of did that because yeah, as I say, none of my kind of peer group were all that interested at the time.
I had to get over the idea of it not be cheating, that I could press just one key and it actually do something that sounded way beyond my talent level.
Yeah,
Because I was in guitar bands that the arrangements weren't what I would go for. It was kind of too melodic to be indie, but like too indie to work for the melodies, that kind of thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and when I was able to do it myself and realize that I could actually have a song of like 16-bit sounds and all that kind of stuff, and it actually appealed to me and stuff like that,
yeah.
it got me over the idea of that. And in terms of like because I'm not really proficient as a guitarist or a keyboardist. I have written songs on guitar, but I feel
Mm,
like again, like with yourself, the scope of what you can achieve on a piano or a keyboard is like just vastly, more wide because for me, yeah, I know basic chords and stuff like that, but you literally can just get your hand and go like that on like about 10 keys,
mm,
and you'll find something in there, and then you can
yeah,
remove that one key, or you can take that one up a semitone and stuff like that. And
yeah, yeah.
do you find that you sort of make chords that are kind of impossible to play live with two hands? But because the
I've
thing is, like you're, let's say you have a basic chord. I mean, from what I've heard, you do so many harmonies and arrangement on top of some of the chords as well that it becomes a whole new chord at that point. Like, do you think of that when you're doing that as well?
Yeah, I do know. I'm a lot more conscious of it now. I think when I was starting out, it was like a bit of trial and error. Um, but it would all be, I still kind of approach everything from even though I'm using like digital tools, I still approach it from the like idea of constructing a band playing, maybe not a band playing live, but real instruments. I still kind of hear, you listen to so much music now, and it's a lot more kind of out there. So, there's a lot more synthesizers, and there's a lot less kind of playing. But I still kind of really like the idea of simulating people playing in a room together and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, in terms of like the stacking harmonies and stuff, I think it was um, I don't know. I think I just kind of got developed a bit of an ear for it, and it's all like I think it was all building a vocabulary from listening to lots of music. So when I listen to loads of music which has dense harmonies and stuff, it's almost like sometimes I find I listen to music to seek permission to do things, where I'm just like it's almost like you know I'm on Age of Empires and the map's blanked out. And I listen to that piece of music that clears a bit of map for me, so I can go and explore there now. And that's kind of how I've used music. And so listening to stuff like Beach Boys and Jellyfish, and you know, same with production kind of things as well. It just becomes part of my vocabulary of what's acceptable. Um, and yeah, that's how kind of I think I constructed everything, or
Well,
tend to anyway.
with regards, because I don't want to be like, where do you get all your crazy ideas from, or sort of like, or literally break
Yeah.
down every single song that you've ever written, stuff like that. But a song like Last Guilt Trip, that
Yeah.
when you sing Money Can't Buy at the end, and it's that kind of,
Yeah.
I want to say, is it a diminished chord that you make with the harmonies? It's kind of like or like a
Right.
sixth chord. It's not a major chord because of some of the
Uh,
harmonies that you add to that. So like, would that be you know that you want to get to that chord, and but you like, what was your theory like at the time in terms of like you knew what you wanted to do and how you wanted to achieve it, or you could just hear it in your head and break the chord down into individual notes, sort of thing? Because again, it would have made sense for that to just end on a major chord, but you end it on that
yeah.
kind of like hanging chord.
Yeah.
That obviously I don't know enough about chord progressions to know what kind of chord it is, but yeah.
You're testing me there because I can't, like I'm in a position because I don't like perform hardly at
Okay.
all. Like everything goes out of my once it's on the computer, it's out of my brain. So I'm trying to remember the chord sequence there. But generally, so I'm pretty good with my chord theory. I sort of understand it. I wouldn't say like I'm an expert, but I think I can intuit that stuff quite well. Um,
It's the kind of
but
thing that you did a lot in Sky Daddy, I noticed, when you go into
yeah,
chorus. Those kind of not quite major chords, the like diminished or augmented, or
yeah,
again, I
yeah.
don't know enough to know what I'm talking about. But it's those kind of
Yeah, so it's like in between chords that are sort of neither here nor there. Yeah. Yeah, those things I think to be honest, I think it is fairly intuitive and it is by ear or it's by finding it by accident. And sometimes like what I found that I do that makes my job a bit difficult is that I don't have much discipline in terms of staying within keys or that kind of stuff. It's almost like I think I write quite linearly. Like I start at the beginning and I work through the song in some order. I don't tend to like write a banging chorus and then patch up the other bits. I do when I was doing sort of co-writing with people, but
yeah.
when I do my stuff, it's like I'm starting at the beginning and working through. So I kind of write myself out of key sometimes, and that
I've done
sometimes,
that. So you
yeah,
end up you don't you finish this lovely chorus, but you can't get back to the verse
yeah, and
properly.
I want to
Yeah.
get back to there. Basically, I want to get back to the original key so I can copy and paste all the arrangement to the next verse. I'm lazy, but sometimes I'll just go, okay, well, I'm out of key. Let's just stay there. Or sometimes I actually have and I quite enjoy this. It's like a problem solving thing, but it's like I have to find a way to navigate back to where I want to be, but not have it sound like a kind of band aid or like what sound too awkward. I still want it to sound musical and like it's supposed to be there and it's not accounting for what genuinely is a bit of an accident. So
Lovely when the
lots
accident
of those,
happens, though, isn't it? Like,
yeah. But then I
yeah.
quite like that because it forces me to do quite odd things harmonically and also try and justify them with the melody or the arrangement and stuff like that. So it's not just purely a functional thing of getting between sections. It's like, can I make this so it actually justifies its existence and it's not just because I lack discipline. Yeah. So yeah, it's really hard for me to articulate that because it's very much sort of in the moment. But there is like a theory basis, but I never sit down and think about the theory of it. I'm just kind of finding out where I land, and it's like I say, I sort of do it linearly, so the melody and the chords are kind of coming at the same time, and the melody might take me somewhere where it takes me somewhere uncomfortable harmonically, and I'll follow that and stuff like that. So I just basically I just yeah I write myself into cul-de-sacs
Well,
and part of yeah use and diminished chords to go back to your point, they're sort of like I found they're quite good ones because they're kind of like wormholes to different keys
yes.
because they've got like this kind of symmetrical, I don't know what the word is there, but they're good for sort of yeah going between keys, and that's where like sort of jazz harmony comes in great because there's sort of chords that are almost like a composite of two chords that kind of give you a few options of where to go key wise and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, I try not to be sort of too theory heavy on that stuff.
No, and you know, you say that you know you it might be hard for you to articulate an answer. It's hard for me to articulate the question sometimes because I'm kind of like
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I'm such a fan of your music,
Oh,
and
thank you.
like as you know, as a songwriter myself, like I just kind of
Mm.
like I'm just so intrigued by. I know that it might be hard for you to explain the process and stuff like that, and part of me probably doesn't want to know because I like the unexpected and not, you know, I don't think that I'm like sort of I'd be able to if the song the ideas that I'm just gonna lick your ass here just for a second. Like the sort of
Please.
the ideas that like sort of come out of your head are just so beyond. Like I'm always like I always felt like with what I did and like still do sometimes. Like I try to aspire to someone like to your level, in my opinion, because like, it's just like your music is like so good and so like vast and creative, and it just feels that there's just no limit to where your music can go.
I've got a very small but very nice and kind fan base. So, but I'm because I'm just like so crap at social media, and I'm so like I'm trying to keep my life ticking over and keep him making money, and I'm still making records. They just take a while to come into fruition. But yeah, when I'm sort of because I don't really get much feedback at all, it's always just like amazing to hear that because I sort of it's so easy to forget um that some people do like it, and I'm quite sort of hard on myself in terms of when I'm making music. I've got this like tension in my head of just like, what are you doing? Like that's what like Carousel Kites as an album was just like it's such a battle with myself because on one hand it was like I had these ideas and it felt like it was like fully formed and it was a real task, and I was really struggling with kind of emotional issues and stuff like that at the time, and then there was just also this like part of me just going, what on earth are you doing? Why are you doing that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, do you not want to make any money? I have that a bit in my head. It's like, why are you finishing the song there? Or why are you going to a brand new section when, and it's like, all these things go around my head, but I always kind of end up just going with like, what would I want to listen to kind of thing. And unfortunately, I love sort of some commercial stuff, but to be honest, I like stuff that is, I have a melodic sweet tooth, so I love pop music in principle, and I always want there to be kind of catchy songs or all those things that people like about stuff. But I also really like progressive things or things that kind of almost just add unexpected moments and thing. So sometimes I'm like, when I'm writing, I'm just trying to take myself by surprise a bit and follow ludicrous like threads, like something stupid will come in mind and it's so stupid and I'll go, well, wouldn't that be cool if I could get that to work though? And it's stuff, when I talk to my friends, I've got friends who are like successful musicians and they get cuts and syncs and stuff like that, and they're doing music that everybody would want to listen to because it's great songwriting and it's accessible and stuff like that. But there's part of me that's almost like, I don't know. It's almost like I want to make some mischief. It's a really weird thing, but it's like I don't want anyone. I think there's part of me that doesn't want anyone to think that they know what I do. And I know it sounds quite sort of kind of self-aggrandizing, but I like sort of I like sort of being unpredictable and stuff like that. So it is kind of always amazes me when people do say they kind of like that stuff, because I feel like I put so many things in that could turn people off, like could sort of, especially Carousel Kites was the one. It's like I haven't listened to it in a while, but I just like it's almost hard to relate to the person that was writing that because it's so weird. But no, but that was one that was definitely my proudest musical output, I think, because it was a battle as well. The context of it was a bit of a battle. So
I would
yeah,
never ever usually say, "Did you get this idea specifically from this bit?" But I am going to ask you this because
yeah, go on.
uh, so on Ready to Fly,
Yeah,
when it goes into the da, 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 that is the
yeah.
film 2008 Jonathan Ross theme, isn't it? Like it just is.
That's so funny. I'm gonna have to listen to that. Yeah, you know what? That wasn't in my head, but it was so I was thinking, weirdly, I was thinking chat show. So weirdly, maybe in a weird sort of like I was thinking it's like I've introduced the song and I'm gonna set up for the rest of the album. And for some reason in my head, like you're right, it's like, I can't remember specifically that theme, but it's probably in there. And it's funny actually, as I'm getting older and I've got two kids now, so as I'm like watching old stuff with them, I'm quite surprised about how like influenced by sort of Disney stuff I am, because it
Mm.
never occurred to me. I was never thought of myself as a Disney fan, but obviously when all that stuff, like I said, it's the vocabulary, so it's sort of in there. And also like the other one like that is like the Sonic the Hedgehog music. Like I don't know, it's not one that I directly thought about, but there's so many aspects when I listen back to it, and it's like, dude, you just want to get to Green Hill Zone. This kind of weird, like this weird sort of almost paradise with these sort of electronic, sort of nasty little undertones in there. And basically, what I've come to the conclusion, I'm just trying to write my interpretation of the Sonic music.
I, I, I will, if you don't mind, I will send you it because I've literally
Yeah.
combined. Like it's still early days, but there's the Sonic. I wish I could remember the level, but it's
Yeah.
that one. And
Yes.
Asterix for the Master System. I ripped a little bit off that, and I mixed it with
Yeah.
a Stock Aitken and Waterman Kylie track because I'm a big fan of Stock Aitken and Waterman as well. They were
Right. Right.
I would call them a major influence that I didn't realize were influencing me
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
until I started coming up with ideas, and I was like, well, I would like it to actually sound like this song. But yeah, no, I totally get it. It largely Warner Brothers stuff for me, so Animaniacs and
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Tiny Toons,
Yeah.
Freakazoid, all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, it all just goes in there and it comes out in weird ways. So it's funny. Yeah, that's really interesting because I never really watched film 2000 and whatever it was with Jonathan
well,
Ross.
that's the
But
thing. It's called film, and then whatever year it is. So like,
yeah,
it's so that's why when I knew when I was going to ask you that question that there's no way to ask it in a way that isn't like a stupid way. But it's just
yeah,
it immediately made me think of that, and I would never
that's so
ever
funny.
ask that question because it's the most annoying thing,
No,
especially
it's
when
great. It's funny because, like, yeah, again, that's a good example. It's like, why on earth did that happen? Sometimes you just go, why did that happen in that bit of the song? But it's like, it's almost like I go in this sort of like trance like state where, that's why I kind of use this whole like April motif, is I find it's like, it, it takes me somewhere out of out of my sort of normal life, and that's why I've sort of kind of relied on it a fair bit. It's got this whole metaphorical meaning to me that I can't sort of shake off, and I find it really inspiring. But yeah, sure, add a sort of TV show chat show theme in the middle of a song for no reason. I'm
Well,
sure I had good reason for it. I just can't remember what it was.
well, I always think that musically, Ready to Fly, like I know I've read an interview where you've talked about um like you didn't feel that your voice is like the strongest, so you kind of make up for it with like lush
Yeah, yeah.
arrangements to convey emotion and stuff like that. And I
Mm,
always find it quite an emotional song because it's kind of like the you can see the curtains are opening for the last time sort of thing when everything drops out and April's theme plays, but like
mm.
with that sort of slower instrumentation and stuff like that. It really does feel like the beginning of like a yeah, you don't expect it to go into something as hyper and sugar coated as Last Guilt Trip, which I love. But like,
Yeah,
yeah, I was think that Ready to Fly is like this musically for me, like it tells a story emotionally more than like for me, for than like all of your other songs.
amazing.
It's
That's
just
interesting. That.
um, but I mean, it like something like I See Sadness, which like has like to your point. I mean, that sounds like one of the more commercial songs on the album, and then
Mm.
the chorus is like this mental other thing, like sort of with something like that. Have you ever, like for lack of a better term, had a chorus that was going to be a part of another song and a verse for another song, and then thought, well, these will
Um,
work well together, like not
I'm
just for the
sure
sake
I
of it,
have.
but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I have. Um, yeah, I can't think of any examples where that's happened, but yeah, lots of those songs were like that's actually Icy Sadness was one where it didn't really have a chorus for the longest time. It had that kind of I was really inspired by Grandaddy. There's a song called AM 180, which is I think it's the theme to like Charlie Brooker's Screen Wipe or something like that. But it's got the do 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 do. It's got this kind of chuggy rhythm, like kind of power chordy thing, and that yeah, I was sort of trying to write my own version of that. So I had that, which is kind of yeah. Again, not sure where that came from. So that the kind of all the verses for that existed for a long time, and then I was really banging my head with that chorus, but then um yeah, I don't know what happened with that one, but it just I kind of thought to just kind of go for some kind of brain melting. Like I think it probably started as a kind of riffy rock thing, but I'd sort of already established a kind of orchestral thing there. So yeah, some of these things they'll just come up after battling away at it for a bit. But then some stuff comes like weirdly. I know it's absurd, but Ready to Fly kind of came as like a I just knew that that was how that was going to work. So with leading into the April theme, and I'm thank you to notice that I throw themes in. So I can't tell. I don't know if people notice this, but I kind of borrow themes from April and I and songs between the album, and I think I'm really clever. That makes me think I'm really clever. But no one tends to notice. It's such like a wasted thing. But so I appreciate that you notice. Uh, but yeah, Ready to Fly was kind of like I kind of knew where that was going, um, and and the it kind of set up the narrative for the rest of that record. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so. Stare of the old, a stare of the old oh my is like
yeah.
even for you, it's out there. But like I just feel like that is like it felt to me like something like you always wanted to have something like that, like just this kind of almost like it, it feels like a wizardy kind of like fairy tale kind of, but
Very
also
prog, isn't it?
it's very very prog. But also for me, one of your most impressive bits of singing, before it goes into that double time bit, where you repeat the stare of the old oh my in
Oh
like the
yeah,
next thing,
yeah.
like that feels like it took something out of you, just that one line, because that was like is that you don't sing like that on that one line on any of your other songs. So, like, did you realize it, or doesn't like it?
So
It
so I mean, I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but I had a guest singer on the rest of that track. So a friend of mine called Luke Stal sing. So he did the kind of crooning main vocal.
yeah.
But you're right, the backing vocal going into the yeah. So actually, I think that maybe that big note that's Luke, who's an amazing singer. He's an
Oh, that was.
incredible friend of
Oh,
mine.
right.
So he does the kind of most of that song, and I did the kind of backing vocals and the chorus, I suppose. Um,
I was gonna say, what
I
sounds
think
like the female vocal? The sort of.
there is a female there is a female vocal, but that's actually someone that's a singer called Greta Isaac, who's in like Fizz, and she's in with Orla Gartland and that lot. Amazing sort of current pop kind of collective, I guess. Yeah, so that's mostly Luke who's got like, and I knew I wanted him on it because he's amazing and he's always kind of done the odd vocal for me. And it's I like putting him out of his comfort zone because he writes kind of really good, like solid, um, kind of direct. I don't want to say folk pop, but it's kind of in that world. And I love making him do sort of croony things. I don't know why, but that one, yeah, I think maybe I tried to sing the lead on that at one point, and that one was actually one of the hardest ones to finish. It went through so many iterations. So yeah, with Stare of the Old Am I think what I was ultimately going for was a kind of Ghost Riders in the Sky, or a Johnny Remember Me. Do you know that tune? Like a Joe Meek tune. So it was really absurd, and that one really um, took so many iterations because it started off as like an acoustic kind of like psychedelic country thing, and then it just wasn't working. I couldn't get it to kind of fly, and then I think after many attempts at it, like it was so close to being ditched that one, um, but I felt it become quite important for like the way I planned the narrative. So I think I maybe just listened to something as simple as um, Eleanor Rigby and just how the strings were arranged for that. And so you can really hear that actually, just all the kind of cello counterpoint stuff. Um, Suddenly I had like, oh, I've got the kind of a sonic world that I need. But yeah, that in retrospect, again, I'd have to listen to it again, but that's really chaotic, that one. It just seems so mad. Like there's a bit like the bit you were talking about where I kind of do the main theme but go major. And again, that's another one where I go sort of in retrospect, I go, well, did you really need to do that? Is there any but I was just feeling so I had such like a maximalist, like follow every idea thread and do it. And I think that was kind of born out of the fact also that like it was the first record I'd made since getting dropped by Polydor years ago. I'd made another record with actually I saw you on the tour for that for Cold Crow's Dead. I think it was when we met in Newcastle and I performed to you and about three people. That was the other record I made, but yeah, it was kind of like it felt like it was all the ideas that I would never have passed by like the pop musicians I was working with and stuff like that. So I just felt like I had to get all that stuff out and like I say, like follow the ludicrous kind of ideas and just like see it through. Um, so it does like it it does uh, kind of push the boundaries of taste. Yeah, that's a really good one. A good example of where it probably went too far, but
Too far, but
sometimes
just enough too far.
yeah,
You know,
sometimes you just have to let things be, and like it is what it is. It's kind of chaos.
but there's no, and I'm guessing you're conscious of this. There's no wasted melody or anything like that. Like to me, like every piece of melody that you use, it's like it's important and it's also catchy and hummable and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
with
yeah,
with with Moon Rock, um, your commercial album. Like, but
yeah,
even by commercial standards, it's kind of like it's out there,
yeah,
and but it's, I mean, wonderful album.
Thank
So
you.
would there have was there a follow up to Moonrock in mind, and would it have been kind of the more commercial sounding songs from Carousel Kites, like Do What Everybody Else Does and stuff like that?
Let me think. No, so I think a lot of them were based on ideas I'd had knocking around for a bit. Actually, I think by the time Moonrock came out, so we recorded it, and as I say, we kind of April and I was sort of written in between, like it was written sort of towards the end of, let's say, the Moonrock writing period. So I think, to be honest, my head, by the time I was ready to be released as a commercial prospect, my head was just elsewhere. And that's part of the reason it didn't work, maybe didn't work, is that I didn't feel like, uh, even though I'm sure there's some like good moments on it and stuff like that, but I just think the stuff I was listening to, and it taken me into quite a different place. So it was a really weird headspace to be in, to kind of perform these kind of pop things, which uh, you know, uh, I think I'm happy it came out, but I think I'd just gone somewhere else at that point, and it was almost like um, sometimes it feels a bit like kind of looking at old sort of baby photos, that because I can hear myself like working stuff out on the Moonrock stuff, like trying to figure out. It's almost like trying to again give myself permission to do the wild stuff, but I also kind of you know, had the thing in the back of my head that it's got to be sort of at least fairly commercially viable and stuff like that. But then even stuff like say in a coma, so I remain quite fond of that song. Um, but it's quite there's something very naive about it. But I ultimately, in terms of its commercial prospects, it is still about someone being in a coma, and I kill them at the end and stuff like and the head of Universal at the time, they were going to release that as a single, but the head of Universal, his his wife had been in a coma for years, and I didn't realize, obviously. So that was never going to be a single, and and so I found so many. It's kind of like a weird self sabotage, a lot of that. But I just think I was like, rather than pop perfection, I was steering towards a bit more like Sonic Adventure. I found that a lot more exciting. And April and I was a little bit of that.
So this is probably the first interview that you've done in a little while. Um,
Yeah, ages. Yeah,
so
I've never done many.
was that by choice? So
Um,
as opposed to like lack of interest, I didn't mean it like
no,
that.
well, no, you're right to say that. It's a bit of both, really. But like it's interesting you mentioned. I don't really. It feels weird not having anything to kind of align it with, like a release or anything like that. But um, yeah, a little bit. But that's not to say I'm more than happy to speak to you. Like it's nice. I know that we've got similar musical interests, and we're coming from a similar kind of musical background and all that kind of stuff. So it feels a lot easier to talk about things, if you know what I mean.
I appreciate it, and also your friend was a teacher at Newcastle College for an amount of time, and he taught songwriting, and he was the reason why I was able to do a PGCE in songwriting teaching, because I don't think there would have been anything that I would have been able to teach to a syllabus, but he had the
Yeah,
songwriting course, and song I feel that I can write songs, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it was an important step, because it took a little while, but I realized that uh, whilst I couldn't necessarily teach to like a syllabus, I could design my own courses and deliver them to either kids or adults with special needs and all that kind of
Mm,
thing, uh,
yeah, yeah,
and kind of make it work, sort of thing. So I'm forever grateful to him.
yeah.
And it was actually that was the time that you came up and played Think Tank.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
is
That was it. And we played to about, it was like you and three other people. And I think this was with Cold Crow's Dead, this was my sort of side project with Murray from the Excerpts, and it was an interesting tour actually because we had quite a big turnouts in Scotland where Murray's from, so in Glasgow, Aberdeen, Brighton, London, but we had a few dead spots that tour, so it was really interesting getting all different sides. But like Newcastle's a great city to hang out in anyway. I've always loved playing shows there, so. Uh, but yeah, I think I remember sort of someone in the crowd saying, "You know what? An Oasis band played here the other day, but you were better than them." I was like, "Yeah, thank
high
you,
high
thank
praise.
you, yeah, yeah." I appreciate that. It was meant with the in the kindest way possible. But
Because
yeah, I think that's the only time we've met.
it is the only time we met, but there is a photograph. I mean, you for what you won tower over me, which is kind of funny. But also, I've got a massive shit-eating grin on my face, and you couldn't look. You look like you've been obligated to stand next to a fan
Oh
for a
no,
photo.
do I? Oh no, I must have been tired or something.
You might have been tired.
Hey, listen, you got to catch me. You got to catch me when I'm glowing. It's
Well,
probably yeah, a bit far into a tour there.
so
But yeah,
you played
let's get
Newcastle
another one of those.
more than once, then.
I
Uh,
have with so I've played in other people's bands there. I don't think I ever played myself for my own stuff there, but yeah, Cole Christian, I did some stuff with Luke Satal Singh when I was playing in his band. Um, yeah, so um, it's great, and I Newcastle United were my first sort of football crush when I was about 10. Uh, so I've got a weird connection to that because I was obsessed with going to St James's Park and
nice.
seeing the Tyne Bridge and drinking Newcastle Brown. Don't know why. I couldn't be further away from it.
Well, I'm looking outside the window now, and because they won the Carabao Cup
Yes.
this week, there's windows just with flags hanging out of them.
Yeah. Amazing.
It's quite nice, because I'm
Yeah.
not like I've got nothing against football, but I'm like I like legitimate sports like professional wrestling.
Yes. Yeah. Real deal.
The
Yeah.
real deal. But it's nice to I am very well aware that Newcastle have won absolutely bugger all in like the longest amount of time.
Yeah.
To the point where I did a did a when I was delivering a songwriting thing. We did a tour because we were funded to do so of St James's Park, and you could tell the guy who worked there had worked there forever. And a part of this tour was like bringing us to a room where it had all of Newcastle's accomplishments, which kind of
Mm.
end at the year sort of 1950 or something. And sort of, and then he goes into like this emotional bit on how we haven't won anything since. And it
Yeah.
was the same room where Kevin Keegan did that interview where he was like, I love it if we,
I love that.
trash
Yeah.
them or something,
Yeah. That was my era for sure.
Oh, same
That's
here.
amazing. I'd have loved that. Yeah. Yeah.
um, so when okay, because I mean, just for those who don't know you as well, who are watching this, because my understanding was, and I don't want to like dig up scars or anything like that, but like,
Mhm.
please tell me if I'm wrong. But did you break your leg on tour in Japan?
Yeah, I so it wasn't Japan, so it was we were yeah, it was kind of like it was right in the kind of bit where I needed to everything needed to go well. So it was like just after a first single, I think. I'm a bit foggy on the details to be honest, but we were going on tour with a band who were kind of hot tips at the time called Air Traffic. I think they made a bit of a splash. And it was the second night of that tour, and it was supposed to be quite a good tour in terms of getting my stuff out there. But yeah, on the second day, I was just prattling about on stage, and I fractured my metatarsal, and had to cancel the tour and any following tours. And it was like, that was really the beginning of the end because, like, momentum wise, it's like, you know, that it's sort of delayed any release of the next single. Um, and yeah, it just kind of sent the label into a bit of a panic. And it was quite clear that the writing was on the wall from that point, and yeah, so it was a bit of a stinker, but it's quite
Couldn't
funny at the same
imagine.
time.
I couldn't imagine that. I mean, I kind of, I guess the height of me attempting to get to whatever level I think that you have to get to be a
Mm,
successful musician, signed to a label, etc.,
yeah,
was kind of at the height of when social media first started. So I was kind of,
yeah,
I saw social media as somewhat of a gift, but not kind of realizing that there's a million people kind of doing the same thing. And,
yeah.
and it also, I mean, it takes, yes, it takes some luck, but it takes probably a higher degree of talent, but also kind of having a the right mindset behind you to know how to market yourself and get yourself out
Mm.
there. Stuff like that. So I mean, how for lack of a better term, how were you discovered?
Oh well, it was. So I went to a music college in Brighton called BIM, and I did a year there. And in that year, so I think this is where it kind of started. So that was where I transitioned from wanting to be a guitar god to coming out as a bit of a piano based songwriter, and I think that's probably when I discovered all the music that I've kind of lent on since then. But um, I started doing these. I had a bunch of demos. I played it to some of the tutors there who were very supportive, and handed it to a guy who came down for a masterclass. It's a guy called Sean Lee, who's an amazing musician. He's in a band called Young Gun for Silver Fox at the moment, and he's did all. Do you remember the Rockstar game Bully from
Yes, I do.
years ago? Yeah, he did all the music for that, and he's like does
Fantastic.
library music. He's an incredible like musician. But he came down to do a talk. I gave him a demo on CD back in those days. That's how old I am. And he listened, I think he maybe listened to it on the train or something like that, but kind of said he really liked it, and um, sent it to a guy who was in charge of a record label up there. And so that's where the kind of bit of, so it's an indie label guy. That's where it kind of started. And then uh, some of the tutors that have been really supportive of my writing, and I needed them to tell me that was good because I had no idea if I was or not. They kind of looked after me, ended up becoming my management after that, and that's where the ball started rolling really. So they knew the right people to send it to based on people they already knew and stuff like that. So it um it was it was kind of just I really was surprisingly, and it's hard to relate to it again, but very driven. So I would give demos to people and share my stuff as much as possible. Um, and yeah, through that and the help I had from my managers at the time, um, just getting stuff in the hands of the right people, it just got a bit of the ball rolling. And they said, right, the first thing you need to do is be able to perform it live. So I kind of cobbled a band together out of people who also went to BIM, and pulled a show together out of that. So um, yeah, it's really hard for me to remember. Actually, it feels like um, yeah, it just feels like ages ago, and it must have been quite quick and quite exciting. But yeah, it's just very foggy for me because it just seems to go quite quick, and it's not the kind of thing you feel like you have much control over. To be honest, you kind of get swept away in it. And I was really young; I was maybe 19, 20. Um, so I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever, let's do it. That's fun. So uh, yeah, I think it was a lot of luck. And it was at probably towards the end of where record companies were prepared to take risks on stuff. And I think pretty much like after that, it was like social media kicked in and everyone's quite self-sufficient now, which I think is kind of more exciting. I almost wish if I was less naive, I'd probably kind of investigated that route. But it's really hard when you're 19, 20 to have label sniffing around and not want to just go for it and say, this is, it could be my only chance or whatever. But it's always with hindsight, you go, oh, actually, like for what I was wanting to do, there's other ways I could have taken it for sure.
I
But
think it
it's
is. There certainly is. The self-sufficient side of social media. Like I'm kind of. If I'd never really feel envious, but I do wish that I was. I mean, everyone wishes they were younger, but I wish I had
mm,
sort of the knowledge that I have now in terms of like how to
Mhm.
handle myself.
Yeah,
But with the youth and maybe the slight marketability of having like a young band, etc. Because
yeah,
when I was younger, I mean, I was kind of like everyone has to be my age and they have to be reasonably attractive, otherwise we'll never get anywhere. Now I'm like, I don't care what you look like. If you
yeah,
smell, if you play your instrument and do it well, you can be
yeah,
in the band. And
yeah.
but the I know it sounds like a crazy question, but was there a point where it became really serious, like sort of thing, or you started taking it more seriously, and then the sort of stress sort of started, or was there ever that?
Yes, straight away. I think actually, like all the live stuff was like quite a big one for me. So I kind of I played live in bands and stuff, but I kind of found it. I always found that side of it quite difficult and stressful. Like I'd never sit around sort of looking forward to a gig. I'd sort of be weirdly praying it would be cancelled. I don't know why. I don't know if it's laziness or just stage fright or the pressure of it or like not having the control of knowing if I was going to have an on day. So yeah, so there was lots of serious stuff. I mean, the bits of that period that I absolutely look back on fondly was going to LA to mix the record, and we had an orchestra. So that was like amazing because obviously I'd had all these MIDI arrangements, and then suddenly you're thrust in like Henson Studios in LA, and these proper musicians are playing your stuff back to you, and that was like that felt like a bit of a dream, to be honest. And got to meet some amazing people. You know, I supported Amy Winehouse on a couple of occasions, which was like a big one because she was like really at the peak of her powers then. So it did feel very serious. But I felt like I was a bit swept along with it really. So I was kind of just not doing what I was told because weirdly I had quite a bit of freedom with certain aspects of it, but the rest of it, you know, I didn't know anything about artwork or photo shoots or interviews and all that kind of stuff. Um, so I just kind of went along with it as best as I could. But I think it's really hard also to like um, to articulate to people that actually maybe you don't want to be a pop star. You want your music. Do you know what I mean? You want your music to reach far and wide and for people to love. But people don't believe you when you say like I don't want to be the kind of it was really be the face of it. And I know that's insane because it's my name going out with it, but that's why I kind of opted for like a illustrated artwork where I could and that kind of stuff because I wanted to create a world for it. And what I found, like if you have someone's face on the front of an album, like a sort of James Blunt kind of thing, where there are millions of those at the time, I don't know. I just like suddenly instead of taking you into a world, I just see that person's face in front of me singing, and it for some reason, yeah, it took a lot away from the experience for me. Um, so yeah, so there's I have a lot to be thankful for that time because it kind of enabled me to write for other people and maintain a kind of career and make it a decent enough living. But in terms of like how my artistic stuff went, yeah, there's a million ways I could have done it better, or it's so easy to go like if I knew what I knew now,
Yeah,
I'd have put my foot down on certain things, or I'd have yeah, steer stuff in a different direction. But when you've got a machine like Universal Music, it's like it's really hard to argue with them because you presume that they know what they're doing, and you're just a kid. So
but
yeah,
with
yeah, it's a funny time.
I think this kind of gets brought up as well. I mean, just to again have the jellyfish quota of the industry
Yeah,
covered, but
please do.
people forget that the guys were in their early 20s and had the weight of the
Mm,
world on their shoulders, and really expensive albums and stuff like that, and you'd probably had
yeah,
to make the money back, but also like the way that their music was released in like nappies and jelly packs and stuff like that,
yeah,
just the extra
amazing.
cost of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
it's understandable. um I always I feel like Andy probably had the same mindset where like he probably never wanted to be a pop star in that way, but you take the opportunity when it's there. And I think he's,
Yeah, yeah,
if anything, more happy either writing for other artists or just being out of
yeah,
the
yeah.
spotlight sort of thing. But you teach now.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So I'm
That's
back at where I went to college. So I'm like you, I'm sort of teaching songwriting and yeah, helping running a course there. Um, so yeah, it's nice to have that perspective actually, and I can be the guy that I had. You know, I had people advising me. You know, you don't necessarily want to sign to a major label or whatever. I can be that guy now that the students ignore, and then tell them that uh, you know it's, you can't when you're that age you just can't that stuff doesn't go in because you're giddy, it's exciting, and it's yeah, it feels kind of almost overwhelmingly like it's easy to be tricked into thinking this is your fate. Do you know what I mean? Because you've gone from nothing to getting all this interest, and you think, well, how likely is that to happen? And then you go, well, I'm the chosen one, so it's going to be fine. And then and then you very quickly learn actually you're sort of you know you're just another one in a long line of people, and that's probably you know um, I'd say like 1/10 of the people that get signed probably actually really make a splash. So I've gone straight back to disgruntled label chat now. But yes,
no,
I am
not
teaching. I am
no.
teaching, so it's a different
I,
perspective.
I feel that you can only be able to teach that from having that history, though, because I mean, you know, the teachers that I was at college with did have like some success, like they wrote the theme tune for something or they wrote the jingle for something, etc.
Mm.
And that's a level of success that
Yeah.
that should be. I think there might have been too much of an emphasis on you either had to be a commercial artist or there was nothing available,
Yes. Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think because it was during the height of the X Factors and stuff like that, and I think it was
Yeah.
potentially the wrong thing to be telling people. Because my argument always was, well, you wouldn't do a horticulture course just to be the next Alan Titchmarsh.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's other jobs out there.
It's so
Um,
true. Yeah.
and it took me to, as a carer and knowing how underfunded things are and stuff like that, and
Mm.
knowing that I can be able to deliver something that will hopefully be appealing and creative, and also, God, it gives me a kick up the backside. To stay creative and focused as well is like a lovely thing.
Mm.
But like, um, you have like this like tangible history that people can see, and like really really funny YouTube videos that like like it almost, I'm guessing to you must feel like a different person now because it is, I mean, what,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
20 years sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, they are very funny.
Yeah. A long time ago. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a while since I've watched those, but I can't
I
even
was do-
remember
I
actually.
was
Yeah.
doing a little I was doing a little homework because obviously I was watching them at the time and enjoying everything
Yeah.
that you're doing at the time as well. But like going back and like they are very very funny. Like they don't translate to someone who has been signed to a major label.
That was always the contradiction, really. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, I mean, it's like you. I did have an instinctive feeling like, oh, I'm a bit out of my depth here. It's like, um, you know, I, you can't be like a sort of camera shy hermit if you want to be in a major label artist, really. Um, but I suppose I thought it was possible because lots of the people that I loved managed to get away with it. So I'm a huge Super Furry Animals fan, right? And you know, they've managed to create this amazing world around what they do and this kind of culture around what they do that actually they don't have to be the face of their music so much. And so I kind of thought it's possible in that way, but you can't go out under your name and not be the focal point and not have your face in the videos and all that kind of stuff. And especially at that time, because I was coming off the back of uh, like Mika, who was the other high singing high singing pop guy. He plays piano. So I think probably what they were looking for, I think what was expected of me was that I was going to turn into the next kind of Mika, but which would have been fine. It just wasn't my trajectory or where my interests were. Um, but yeah,
And
you just got to remember why you got into it and why you love it. And I still, I am working on another record at the minute, and I still get the same thrill. If I feel like that's when I do try and travel back, and I still get excited about it and discovering new things, and um, that's never really gone. But yes, I'm just no way near as ambitious in a sort of careerist sense. But I'm
but
quite
I
happy
think
with that, to be honest.
there'll be a level of more of a level of freedom to that.
Yeah, that's
That
why
and
Carousel Kites happened, really, because I had no pressure beyond myself and sort of the the expectations really from maybe a couple of fans. So
well, the
that's
last
I
Kickstarter did well, and I would expect that the same thing will happen this time if that's what you choose to do. But I know you said I again did read that you would maybe do it differently
yeah,
this time
I
round.
think that was the only thing. Yeah, I did go like all that said, um, yeah, carousel kites, I did drive myself proper nuts. I couldn't have been more of a hermit. I like I just, I think there was like a real sense of desperation for that, which comes through in the record in a way. It's quite a good document of, the chaos of that time. But um, so yeah, I didn't. I think I basically announced it too soon and got and wanted to use it as a bit of a motivator to finish it. But just so many things got in the way, and then suddenly I had the weight of like all this money in a pot that people had pledged, and I had to be accountable for, and that freaked me out a bit actually. So I probably won't do it like that. I think I'll make it and see what happens. There's no like plans for timelines or anything like that, but uh, yeah, I'll just see where I'm at once I'm done with it and I'm pleased with it, and then see where we go from there. Maybe I do a kind of Kickstarter thing. I don't really know. I don't know if there'll be enough then. I just leave it too long between things. So like to expect people to remain interested is a bit kind of wishful, I think.
One every 10 years is fine. Like I
Yeah.
looked up Parappa the Rapper for some reason yesterday, and
Mm.
the it's one game every 10 years. So you are the
Yeah.
Parappa the Rapper of.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I mean, yeah, so if I do one now, the next one will be well, I'm close to 50. I mean, that's frightening, isn't it? I don't know what happens then. Like I'm really, I don't want to, it's like I do see myself like musically softening up. I really don't want to be one of those old people who just ends up doing kind of blues covers. And
You're not in your 40s, surely.
I'm close.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean it's fine, but yeah, I want to make sure that it's still the music justifies its existence and doesn't just become too easy.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that will be my excuse for why I haven't done anything for the past like 7 or 8 years either. Before I let you go,
Yes. Yeah.
one song that like always intrigued. I mean, right, I give my number is possibly my favorite song of yours. I just want to kind
Oh,
of get that out.
nice. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love that song. I do have two questions. What do
Yeah.
you say during the solo part when the bird comes in on the video? Because it's kind of like squawking, but it doesn't really. The words aren't. It's the same thing repeated. But I never really deciphered what that was. And if you can't
In
remember,
which
don't
bit?
tell me, and I'll.
I'd have to listen to it. Hang on.
Because it goes
Which
into the
bit?
key
The
change.
walking bit.
It goes into the key change, so I gave her my number, and then into
Oh
the
yeah.
instrumental bit, and then it's kind of like this kind of squawky.
Oh, I think I'm not sure that's even words. I think I was trying to do a I feel like I was trying to do a kind of a bit like a God, this is so insane when I think about it. Where did that come from? Like a kind of, Brazilian, I think it's called a cuica.
Okay.
That kind of John Shuttleworth keyboard sound. I think I was doing something like that. God knows
Because it
why.
sounds like you're talking because it's not just repeated. You're like sort of it's expressive in the
Oh,
because you're like like it's like actually having a conversation.
I'll have a listen to that and I will get back to you
This is kind of like
if
the
I'm referring to a different
what color
thing.
socks were you wearing when you recorded this?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But
Um, if I listen back to that if we're thinking about the same bit, I'll try and figure out what that was.
lovely.
Um, but I don't recall at the minute.
And one other question. So school bully.
Yes.
When it goes into the sort of like techno,
Yeah.
what would you call it? Would it be like a? Would it be techno? Would it be house music?
Yeah, I would think of it as sort of migraine techno. That's one of
Because
my
it works
side
so
genres.
well. But like, did you have any experience doing that kind of thing before? With that
No,
song in
but
particular, what was the mindset?
again, it's a real lack of discipline. But also, I've actually I've always really liked bands that even the kind of guitar bands that I was into when I was growing up, like the ones who had like an electronic side to them. So Radiohead's one, Super Furry Animals, Grandaddy, like all those bands. I love the combination of electronics with real instruments and stuff like that. Um, so I think that some of that bled into it, and just the idea of a kind of punishing, unexpected assault always appeals to me. And I did a similar thing in Carousel Kites on Music Makes Me Feel So Alone, where the song sort of deteriorates into a kind of really a sort of barely listenable. Yeah, I call it migraine techno. It's supposed to make you feel really horrible, and it's like got almost like these grinding sounds. It's like the sound of metal on metal kind of thing. So I've always had a bit of a thing for that. Um, Again, I'm not sure where it comes from, and I'm sure if I had a producer next to me, I'd be advised against it. But that's the freedom of doing your own stuff, really. But
Does it come from finding the synth or the noise first, or do you know?
yeah,
Are you trying to
yeah,
find it because you've got the
that
idea?
yeah, I honestly can't remember on School Bully. I remember I was listening to a lot of Cornelius at the time, who's like a Japanese artist who did lots of stuff with electronics and guitars. So like kind of, um, but yeah, I think I was maybe trying to serve the narrative there, um, but to be honest, I can't remember. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say that as well.
No, no. Well,
but
see, this
but
is just me fanboying out and asking these kind of
no, it's fine. No,
convention kind of
I'd like
questions.
to know in a way. But I've always had this kind of like mad, like weird sort of techno fetish. Like I do listen to quite a lot of electronic music when I'm sort of, if songs aren't doing it for me at a certain point, I like listening to instrumental stuff or electronic, like the Warp catalog kind of stuff because I just find it interesting. It feels very different, and sometimes when Jellyfish is a good example where I listen to that and I find it quite stressful because it's like, oh damn it, they sort of did it. They did the thing. And I can't do that thing now. Do you know what I mean? Um, yeah, so I find that about a lot of those kind of uh, find that about a lot of kind of music that I should be liking, like Pet Sounds as well. I kind of go, oh, it's such a shame. They nailed that and they didn't leave anything for me. So yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that. You songs for me at least, and I'm sure for a lot of people, ventured just into places where you know we've never seen or heard before, and
Oh, I hope so.
yeah, I think so. The combination of things and just how they're put together and everything else is just they don't your work does not get old.
That's
And
great to hear.
yeah, it's actually it's been a huge treat to be able to properly chat and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
man, same here. It's
um,
nice to chat again.
I appreciate
I'm
it. So
sorry it
when
took so long.
no, not at all. There's been a whole pandemic. You've been busy. Yeah, you fine. But
Yeah, man.
when you have something cooking,
Yeah,
it would be lovely to have you back on. And
big time. I'd love to do that. That'd be great. Yeah.
so I would usually say where can people find you, but you may not want people to if you're not
Well,
promoting anything. Like,
yeah, I occasionally stick stuff up on Instagram. I'm producing a band called Barber at the minute. They're worth checking out. Who they're not a million miles away from the kind of jellyfish ambition. They're a bit more in the kind of on the British side of things, maybe. Um, but check those guys out. They're really good Brighton
give me the
band.
link and I'll post it below.
Yes, we'll do. Yeah, yeah. But I've got an Instagram at Paul Steele. So as soon as anything happens, or I kind of pluck up the courage to post any bit of content, it will come up on there. But feel free to find me. Happy to kind of chat in messages. I'm just as you know, Pablo. I take a long time to reply, but I do see it. I do see it eventually.
It's good to know. And also, before I do let you go, if you do a Kickstarter next time, everyone needs to get on top of it because the deluxe version of Carousel Kites. You've seen how much that goes for on Discogs.
I haven't. No.
Oh
What does
bloody
it say?
hell! Like, if you had
Hang
endless
on.
amounts of them, you could probably retire at this point. But
You're
yeah.
joking. Your problem is you need someone who wants to buy them. That's the only issue. Um, yeah, I've got some in a box, So maybe if I get desperate, I can find enough people interested. That'd be great. But yeah, no, I'd love to do another kind of physical one. As time goes on, that seems less and less likely, but you just never know.
We said that
Um,
about the Carousel Kites, and it ended up happening.
mm,
So yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's. I think I'll kind of see where we're at that because conceptually the thing I'm working on could lend itself well to something, but yeah, again, I don't want to say too much because it gives me the endorphin hit that I shouldn't get until it's done.
Oh, well, it's
Yeah,
it's it's very exciting. Well, look, I want to thank
yeah,
you
man.
for taking some time out, and yeah, we'll do this again. And yeah, I
Yeah.
want to thank everyone for tuning in to Jellyfish. Joining a fan channel, do like and subscribe. I hate doing all this YouTube bollocks. Because it's like if you're watching it, you probably are subscribed. Share it to people, get them to join the Patreon. Help me afford professional Zoom so it doesn't cut off after 40 minutes. But yes, thank you for tuning in. And if you're checking out Paul for the first time, like do listen to his music. I'll be posting the Facebook page runs in conjunction with the YouTube page, so there will be your music will be posted to
Oh,
upvotes
amazing.
and stuff like that. So
That's
yeah,
rad. I
thank you again,
appreciate it.
and we'll see you all next time.
Lovely.